Frank, are you
Yes.
ready?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
So, everybody awake again with the coffee? Camera is on. We're ready here. I would like to share this presentation with you. This actually a presentation I borrowed from an organization called ERN, which is the European Regional Network of regions in Europe. And they have made a very recent presentation just a few weeks ago of the open calls from the knowledge-based bioeconomy program, which is one program, one of the themes within the cooperation program dedicated to food and agriculture. As I thought that some of you might be specifically interested in this, I give it as an example on how to read the programs and what kind of calls are there. And there's already a table there which you can use as a template. If you can make those tables from the programs for your scientists and distribute it in a newsletter inside your university, you can really help them a lot. Okay, next slide. The bioeconomy in Europe is supported by a number of science and technology strategy documents. There's really a life science strategy document in Europe. There is one on what Europe would like to achieve in the bio-based economy in 2030. So please have a read in your free time in these documentation, because they give a glimpse of the philosophy, what Europe would like to see. And that forms the basis of the design of the calls. Next. And in those policy documents you will see very practical things. Namely, what are the challenges that we're all facing and how could we overcome these challenges? How do we find solutions together? And you see, it's very broad. It's relating to poverty, to food, access to food, to quality of food and safety, and to fish and aquaculture too, not just land-based. And of course, there's an environmental impact. I mentioned already the water use, but also pollution, high pollution with fertilizers. As we are dealing with Europe, some land cannot be used anymore for crops because there's too much fertilizer, too much nitrogen in the land. Here you might have the opposite problem, lack of certain ingredients that could really increase the crop enormously. Next one, please. And then, of course, there's the land use for agriculture of animals and safety of animals to food, to meat. And the waste loop and diseases. Then you think of SARS, SARS, which jumps from chicken to human. Those are common diseases, so there's a health-related issue as well. Also the use of pesticides, which can be a health hazard for the farmers. So there are a lot of elements there that can be attacked from different angles. Next one. We're always focusing on the grand challenges and then zooming into a smaller problem under those big challenges that we can attack together. Next. Next. This I showed you already, so under the cooperation program, next, you find these slides for food and agriculture. Next. The objectives, next, are really sustainability. And that is more than just a technological solution, but it includes proper management. Management of the land, management of the value chain, from food producer to what you get on your plate, from farm to fork. I will come back to that in a minute. Infectious animal diseases, food-related disorders. I mean, there's many science-related stuff there, but on top of that, also regulatory stuff. Next one. Energy, of course. Yes, next. And there's a huge amount for opportunity for international collaboration. You might have specific species here, you might have specific methodologies to modify species, specific agricultural principles, very small and simple, cheap solutions, where in Europe maybe people working with very expensive solutions. Those kind of things can be very valuable in a cooperation. Next. There are a number of goals under these programs. So Oceans of Tomorrow is more related to marine biology, but there's a clear overlap with fish aquaculture under the biotechnology group. And ERANETS is something that you may have a look at, but it's clearly within Europe. So that's not for Africa. Next. These are the goals. They just have been published last month. Certain calls are rather short, like the ones that are closing in January, and others you still have time, much more time, until next summer. And believe me, to start a consortium, build it, get partnerships, develop a good proposal, review it, edit it, it does take 5 or 6 months. Now, that is the average. And usually it's 3 or 4 months making all appointments, meetings, teleconferences, and getting the concept right. And on the last 2 months, you write a proposal. That is practice. So the lead time to find the proper partners, that takes most of the time. And of course, the European Commission itself takes time to actually evaluate a number of months. Then the negotiation period takes a number of months. So for all practical purposes, the programs will not, even if you're successful, will not start before well into the next year. That's what I said, long term. There are exceptions that are a little bit quicker, but this is the average picture. Next. These are the priorities for this year. The program that is published this year is called the Work Programs 2011 because the programs will be evaluated and negotiated in 2011. And these are the priorities this year. Next year, the program 2012 will be published with different priorities. So these come only once. Be careful with that. You should not delay your preparations too much because you may have, if you're right on the target of your call, you may have only one chance. The next one. We'll skip this. That is a general thing, we'll skip. That is also general information. And this is the table I was telling you about. The whole Word document, which I will show you in a minute, is more than 100 pages. And now, none of your scientists are going to read all that 100 pages. So make their life easy and make a table like this. Some organizations, like Sarima, have established these tables already. You can simply copy them. There are a number of, I will show you a number of websites of organizations that are also developing these tables. So that an association like Barina could help to gather that information and then distribute it among your universities, and you can distribute it internally. And it's fairly simple. Just a topic call, the amount of money that is involved, and a deadline. You don't need more than that to zoom in on the individual calls and then actually read that particular text. So go a little bit further, please. Next. 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 Optimizing animal health, agriculture, production, facilities and processes. Next. Sustainability and production systems. So you need sociology and economic research there too. It's not just lab-based biotechnology. Next. Next. I just zoomed in very quickly here to give you a glimpse. You can read it later in detail. Here, this part is focused on food, including seafood, on health. So safety, food, health, and improving health. For example, nutraceuticals, where you add ingredients that improve the health of the human, or improve the feedstock. Extra vitamins for your cattle, things like that. And everything is focused on the total food chain concept, as I said, from food producer to the farm, right? From the farm to the fork to your plate. Next. functional foods, as I said, new technologies there, food packaging. This is wonderful for small, medium enterprises. Huh? How do you package food cheap and safe over a long time and store it, transport it? Next. Food quality and safety, which is a real problem, especially as Europe is setting the standards for safety. And there are markets that are barred from import and export, and they use the safety or the quality standards as an excuse to control their markets. So if you actually can circumvent the safety or make the safety issue not an issue at the quality level, you can open up markets for enterprises that otherwise would be closed. This can have real economic value. Next. Novel sources of biomass and using biomass for energy, for production of raw materials in the plastics industry, for example. Think of the biopolymers, the polylactates that are now used. You see more and more big fine chemical industries using raw material from biological sources to replace oil-based plastics or other fine chemicals. And that is really a very, very fast-growing sector in the future. So you have fantastic opportunities if you have unique plants here in Africa that have unique ingredients that can be used in the fine chemical industry or in the plastics industry or as a source of enzymes. Think of that. You might be sitting on unique plants here or bacteria that are a source for enzymes. I can think of a number of examples there that can bring real value. Next one. Next one. And that's really an overview. An overview of which call situates. So just use this presentation as a reference card. And if you allow me, I have opened a PDF document there. Another PDF document. That is called Work Program. KBB Work Program. As you can see, this is the work program for just one program. Just the KBB, the agriculture and food. 100 pages. Only one group of call that is now open and will close in January. If you look, just as an example, in how those calls are written, they're extremely detailed. You just zoom in on one of them, and you see there, if you go a little bit up so that we see the title. No, not the title. Stop. You see the title of the group of calls for food quality. It says exactly what we want to expect in these projects. And on one sub-call, you see at the bottom there, is KBB 2.4.01. That's the first sub-call on the safety. And that's called safety and quality of ready-to-eat foods, hamburgers. Now, if you go into the detail, next page. Just as one example. This is obviously related to obesity, bad health because of low quality food. So, and also toxins because of low, bad quality preparation of the food. Now, if you go to the next page, here you see that they're expecting a collaborative project under the funding scheme, where small medium enterprises are mandatory. The requested subsidy shall not exceed 3 million euro. Your project budget can be 4 or 5 million. But the maximum subsidy you can receive is 3 million euro. We will go through a budget exercise tomorrow, and you will see that certain activities are funded 100%, and other research and demonstration activities are funded with 75 or even lower percentages. That's why the difference is. And this is an eligibility criteria, so you cannot just ask 3 million and €1, then your project is out. Just stay below that limit. they expect that at least 35% is going to small and medium enterprises. That is a budget requirement too. That means that the medium enterprises are not just receivers, they actually have to get their hands dirty. They have to get their hands dirty, really invest time and money and effort to become integrated in the research project. And then a little bit further down, you see that under this call, they have money for 3 projects. So if there are 25 projects proposals, they can select only the top 3. And then the most important paragraph is called expected impact. If we have a look at that, please. The European added value there lies in offering food of better quality and safety to consumers. And then they express exactly what that means. At the end, it says the expected project results should clearly be of interest and potential benefit to SMEs. That's why their budget is so high. A strong participation of SMEs in the project itself should help to contribute to the realization of the benefit. Now this one is rather vague, but if you read this text of impact of some of the other calls, they say exactly what the impact should be. And you need to think in your project proposal, how are you going to achieve that? As a university, you may not be able to do that alone. So every single member in the consortium has their own task towards that objective, achieve the impact. So this is the way how you help your scientists to read the call. It's good practice to sit together, have an hour with a researcher team, sit together, read through the proposals and select and make a priority list. And say this is the best fit, this is the second, maybe we have a chance for the third. And then you define your strategy, where you put your energy in the proposal writing. And then you also make a priority list on which partners are we still missing. And that is the second important step, which I will discuss in a minute. Okay, you can close down this file, please. And we go back to the main presentation. No, the main PowerPoint presentation, please. Yeah. If we put this on the full screen.
This cup, this wine cup.
Thank you. So the next step, what I said earlier before coffee, is to think strategically. If you have a project ID and you have found a call that, or 2 calls, 3 calls that might be appropriate, then you have to do your homework and find out in the project databases, has this been done already? Who is active in this field? Are there main partners that could be coordinated? What has not been done yet? And that is not published in the scientific literature, but is published in the project databases. Please consider the project databases as a completely different source of information as the scientific literature. Because in the project databases you can find information of what they would like to develop that has not been published yet. That's equally important to know, because by the time that you will be ready with your project, you're 3-4 years down the road, and a competing project might have achieved their results already. So you need to think ahead, 3 or 4 years ahead. What is important in the coming years, and when should I start, and where should I start to develop that solution now? So, background intelligence, competitive intelligence is the more industrial term. We do that. If you have a company and you want to develop a new product, the first thing is not go to the lab and say to the engineer, can you develop a new product? No, first you go to the market databases and find out whether the product is there and if there is a market for it. Otherwise you don't even start developing. Same thing here. Think in those terms. Is there a need for your knowledge? Your knowledge is your product. And then finding the industrial partners to take your knowledge and turn it into products and bring them to society or to market, you probably need need to contact chambers of commerce and ask them which small medium enterprises have a research department, or maybe look at references of who has been speaking from industry at main conferences on the topic. That's a good way to find partners in the industry. And then approach them directly and say, well, look, we have this idea, we have this knowledge, but we need an industry partner to take the next step. Would you like to collaborate? And I usually do contact directly the scientist in the research center, not the CEO, unless it's a very small company. And as I said, use the Cordis database in an early stage to find out what has been done already. Sometimes you can look at the websites of large research institutes because they have usually ongoing strategic partnerships with industry. So, for example, if you look at the University of Helsinki in Finland, you will see maybe 10 or 20 partnerships with companies like Nokia, mobile phone developers. The University of Helsinki has technology institutes. Nokia has their own research institutes, but they need some basic research. They actively collaborate for very, very long strategic programs. They exchange students and scientists. And together they form new proposals. So through that university site website, you can find their key industrial partner too. And then you write to the University of Helsinki and you say, can you introduce me to Nokia? That's the way to do it. Also, there are so-called IRCs, in Innovation Relay Centers. There's a whole network of these in Europe, and we are directly connected to that network. So I can, if you have a bright idea, write it down in an abstract, send it to us, and we can send it through that network and farm out your idea. If anybody is interested to find you, we can make the partner searches and matches. So please use that. If you cannot find your partner yourself, feel free to as early as possible, write your idea and see what is needed. And then send that form to us and we can send it throughout Europe to these networks. And then usually a few weeks later, the first responses come back. And that is an additional way of finding missing partners. So that is a free service that I would highly recommend you. It can save you a lot of trouble. Next one, please. So this is another checklist for you to use. It's very simple. You don't need a PhD for this. But the problem is that most people, they start getting these checklists and they start immediately at some place like the work plan and they forget the rest. And then once they start writing the proposal, halfway down they say, ooh, what about management? What about impact? What about the market? And then they need to go back and they change their work plan, they change their work. You do a lot of double work. Or you're missing key information about the market or key players. So please use the checklist and don't forget any of the items because all of them are important. You save a lot of time during the proposal phase. And then good practice is make a roadmap. Once you have an idea for a proposal and you have a part of a consortium and you know the deadline of the call and you call back and you say, okay, if the call deadline is in January, I need to start writing at the latest early November. In practice it will be late November. But if you don't plan it for early November, you will never be ready for January. And then you plan back and you say, okay, that means that in October I really need to have my complete consortium. We have a teleconference, everybody knows what to do. And then you divide the task. You write this piece, you write that piece, you write this piece. I fill in the forms. That is a project in itself. Writing a good proposal needs a time planning and sometimes a budget for travel. Like we discussed yesterday, sometimes you need to go to Europe to visit a group of partners, discuss the work plan in detail. So you need some budget and certainly time to write proposals, and you may not succeed. So it's time invested with a risk. The good news is that if you've done it once, you can cut and paste and use ideas from a failed proposal in a new proposal, and that saves you a lot of time. So it's not lost. And sometimes you can use the partners for a completely different proposal. So it's never time lost, but you have to be prepared to invest time and money in order to get the chance to be successful. Next one, please. And this is the famous thing about an abstract. Again, you do not need a PhD for this, and most of you have been writing abstracts for scientific papers, but I want to point you out that if you use a format like this, and I can give an empty template, that's not a problem. There's a big difference with a scientific journal summary. Scientific journal summary focuses only on what is new. This is my new discovery. And this is groundbreaking, I'm the first and the only one who has found this. What you want to do here is you want to express three main topics. One is, what is the problem that you want to attack in this project? What is your main objective? Second, how do you want to do this? Just bullet points. Step 1, step 2, step 3, not more. And then, what is the outcome? Is the outcome something that is really has an impact on the world, on eradicating a full disease, creating agricultural principles that could generate €1 billion over 10 years? That is impact. Save 20,000 people's lives per year? That is impact. So that gives the evaluator in one page immediately an idea, okay, this is really important, this is something exciting. And it also is a fantastic tool to find partners. Because if you have an idea, but you're still missing 1 or 2 partners, you send them the abstract, and you get them excited. And then you tell them more. Maybe under confidentiality. We will go into that tomorrow. But this is a public document that summarizes what you want to do to get people excited about it. It's like creating enthusiasm for an investment. That's not a summary of an abstract for a scientific paper. Okay? Next. Question to you. Anybody can give an example. A project that they would like to present here just in 1 or 2 minutes. In this way, as I said, the abstract to present with the 3 elements and just to explain your project to the audience in 1 or 2 minutes. It can be a past project, not a project that is new, a project in which you have worked. Anybody? Yes, please.
To talk about a project in which we have worked.
Yes. Just to summarize it in the way I said for the abstract.
Okay. Maybe just for me to talk about the development partnerships in higher education projects. This is sponsored by the Department for International Development of the UK. So it's a project between 3 partners. My own university of Afro University, the University of the Witwatersrand in Johannesburg, and then the University of Southampton. And we coordinated this from Afro University. The structure of the proposal is just like you have said, but one thing that is also important there is that you need to find partners. But that has changed now, but by the time we applied, because our project ends this year, so we needed to find a partner. And we needed to talk about the impact too. So I want to, maybe I should just highlight some of the problems we had with writing, maybe that.
Sorry.
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay.
Just the 3 elements that were in the
Sorry, I get it now. So what we did was what we proposed to do was to HIV/AIDS policy for the country, undergraduate universities in the country, and also to ensure that undergraduates in our university, that they understand the problem of HIV/AIDS, and then when they graduate, that they also impart that knowledge to others. And that we said we would do by establishing a course in the university that will train them in that area.
Okay, if I may repeat what you said in my own words, because I would translate that story into just 3 sentences. The first sentence is, of course, the title. It's a policy platform or dialogue for HIV/AIDS on the national scale. The objective was to develop a program or paper. The work plan was to develop a course. Then my question pops in my mind.
The work plan was to bring together those partners working in that area to come up with a policy.
Okay, so you bring people together, you develop a policy, and you develop a course.
And then we develop a course.
Those are 3 bullet points there. And then what is the impact? How would you describe the impact?
The end point is to establish a program that will be sustained. The end point is 1, to develop a policy that the universities will adopt, and then to also develop a program that will be sustained beyond the time period of that project.
And who would be the beneficiaries of that policy?
The beneficiaries will be
politicians or
the students and staff, the staff and students of the universities.
How would you describe that? What are they going to do with it? They work more efficiently, or they understand deeper the problems, or they can decide better?
They understand the problems deeper in order to be able to implement preventive actions for themselves.
So the end result will be better prevention.
Yes.
Oh, okay. That's what I was looking for. See, you see in the example, it's not so easy. It looks very, very simple, so abstract, and say, yes, of course I write something. But I may not understand what you have in your head. So you need to search for words that somebody else like me, even I can understand, and evaluate it. And this is really, I can recommend you to do this exercise thoroughly with the scientists you're training, because most scientists are so deeply in their technology jargon, they have difficulty in expressing it to people outside their discipline. And you did very well, but I didn't understand immediately. So by dialoguing, by talking about it, you improve the language. And you saw a second thing here in the exercise, and that is you started with a long story. And I tried to summarize, and then you summarized, and finally we found just 2 or 3 words that capture the content. That is something that you have to do together with your scientists in the workshops, and it can be really fun. You can have fantastic. What I usually do in the workshops is you give them the empty abstract, and you divide the audience of 20 people in maybe 4 or 5 tables of 4, maximum 4 or 5 people, not more. In a table of 6, 7, 8 people, people do not discuss anymore. And then you have 2 or 3 people who are just taking all the discussions and the rest are listening. But in small tables like 4 people, you have 2 or 3 different ideas and they have to discuss and explain to each other. And then usually what I do is I ask one person from each table to present the ideas that the others have explained. So somebody has to make this abstract explanation from a project they're not familiar with, that somebody else has explained. And that's hard too. And you see immediately whether they understood or not. This is a fantastic exercise for proposal writing, because you really have to explain and find the right keywords. keywords that people really understand, like the prevention of AIDS and campaigns. Like, that is something I can relate to. If I would talk to you about my biological research in neurology and about protein kinase E phosphorylations and synaptic connections and long-term potentiation, you probably would say, I don't understand a bit of it. But if I say, no, my old research project was to investigate what happens in nerve cells when they communicate, and what happens at the chemical level as a basis of memory. And you say, at least that I can understand. Same topic, different words, for a different audience. So, and same thing, if you want to search for an industry partner, don't talk about the academic achievements only. They are looking for, what can I do with it? Where's the product? Is there really a market for it or not? Otherwise, you will lose their interest. So, really pay attention to this with your scientists, and they will find a lot of fun. If you make a couple of jokes in it, it can be a really fun session. Okay, I will skip this. The next series of slides is a very long series of slides, and we just tap very quickly. I take one or two out to explain. But it's meant as a reference guide for you, because there are many information sources where you can find additional information and partners. And this is just to give you a jump start. And you can use them at your own leisure to start at these websites, look what is on the website, look at the documents that are listed here. This is policy background. Next. Now, there's also policy background in Europe about research policies. Not more. Next. OECD, for those who are working with economic studies, you're probably familiar with this, but it's an information source, the organization where they have done a lot of studies on impact. So you will see quite a number of documents that have done the background research already. And you can just copy the figures into your proposal and say the OECD has done this study, these are the actual numbers, and this is what we are going to use in our proposal. It's a good reference. Next. This is a research center inside the European Commission. Certain studies and certain themes are studied by these research institutes for the European Commission. So for certain areas it might be interesting. Next, especially environment. There are a number of databases, and there is one database I would like to indicate here. It's called the IDEA, the Who is Who in Europe. And that's a very useful database because if you link on there, you can find the telephone numbers and the emails of project officers inside the European Commission. And if you have a nice abstract, you send that abstract to a project officer and you ask him or her, would this fit in the call? Would it match? And then they can say, yes, it will fit directly in the call, but we cannot guarantee your money, of course. You have to submit a full proposal. Or they can say, no, your abstract looks like a better fit for a different call. They will give that advice free. So they will not judge the quality of the proposal, but they can see already whether you made the right choice or not. That can save you a lot of trouble if you do this early enough. And then of course the coordinator of a project can use the telephone number to actually call the project officer, ask them, do you know what is behind this call, what other documents I should read? They can get much more information from. The European Commission is quite open for discussion, but not at the last 2 weeks before the call. Be early enough. Next. This is an overview of all the different directorates inside the European Commission, all the different agencies and institutes. Next. Who is doing what? Next. This is the mobility portal I told you earlier about the jobs exchange for scientists, and also migration issues, visa issues you can find here. So that might be useful if you actually send a student for the International Exchange Office, for example, to have a look at this portal if there is a problem, a procedure for specific student visa or workers visa. You'll find all the information there. Next. This is an important one. IGLO has nothing to do with Eskimos or Inuit. This is an informal network of liaison offices of the different countries in Europe towards Brussels, towards the European Commission. For example, Germany has COLI, is the coordination office from Germany, from all universities and institutes and industry in Germany to liaise and talk to the European Commission, and vice versa, to get the gossip in the corridors of Brussels, early information, and tell it all to German researchers. The UCRO office is the one for the UK, so you find all the information in English there. And you can become a free subscriber to their newsletter. And also Sarima has not an official office, but they have a person there, which is Dan Dutoit, which is a scientific officer in the embassy. He has 2 or 3 workers, and they walk the corridors in Brussels and they hear exactly what is going on there. I live in Brussels, so I get some of the information early on as well. If you have specific information, I can give it and share it with you. But these offices are free services and they're more equipped than we are. So please use these offices and get information. Look at their websites. Each of these links through to their website, and you can find early announcements of calls. Or sometimes you're frequent asked questions of, I have a problem with my budget such and so, how do I deal with it? You can use free sources like that, and you don't have to pay very expensive consultants for it. Okay, next. This is a website for all regions that are related to innovation in Europe. There are many. They have their own programs. Next. European Business Network. Those are relations with the chambers of commerce and with the large industries. So this is a good place to start finding industry members. And they also know very much about industry policy in Europe. Next. The large industries that are very much involved in European programs in all sectors, like the Mercedes-Benz, the Siemens, the Philips, the IBMs, they're all members of this network, and this network is not focused on their products, but on the research management practices in industry. This organization I've been dealing with because I was president of the academic counterpart, IARMA, and IARMA we had programs together on how to learn from each other at the level of research management. And they're quite open. You can ask questions. You can go to their meetings and workshops. So they have excellent reports. So it's just at the level of research management, an interesting resource. Next. Same for the European University Association. That is the counterpart of the partner that we have in our Vini for AC project. Our partner is the Association of Commonwealth Universities, which is a global network. This is all in research-intensive universities in Europe, 800. You can search in their member database. You can search for their reports on what is happening in the changes in education policy, the standards for research charter, for ethics, for dealing with research contracts and salaries. They have special work groups on those. And I know them very well. I've done a project together with them. They're very open for international collaboration. So you probably know about the Bologna Treaty in Europe, where they changed all the education programs into a standard format that is recognized throughout Europe. And that may be relevant if you send out scientists to there. So European University Association and the Association of Commonwealth Universities are very useful resources for general university strategic management issues, education issues. And they do projects too. They can be a partner together with you in a project on education reform, development, policy on education, things like that. Next one, please. ERTO is the European Association of Research and technology organizations. These are applied research institutes, like CERED, and they do a lot of applied research together with industry. They also have workshops on knowledge transfer, on intellectual property management, on how to deal with industry properly. And their members are the biggest research institutes in Europe. Pasteur, Fraunhofer, Max Planck, all the big non-university applied research institutes. So these are also the key members that are partners in the largest projects. They have also workshops and calls and conferences you can go to and establish contacts. Next. This is the proton I explained already. Next. That's the Sarima website. I hope that with Barima you will have the same level of information very soon. Websites that give newsletters, workshops, events, conferences in December. The Sarima website actually is quite rich in information on European funding. So have a look at that website. It's information that is out there free and it's relevant for Africa. So maybe also relevant for you. And you can go to conferences and workshops there and invite people from Sarima to come to your university here. Next. This is a slide I made last night. Based on some of the discussions we had yesterday, and it's the second exercise I would like to share with you. We're not going to do this exercise, it would take too long, but I can briefly explain how to do this with your scientist if you give a workshop. I just affixed a big paper on the wall, or you give every team, like a table of 4, a paper, and you write just the top. The what, the how, the when, the where, and the who. And then you explain that you need to fill in their project under these categories. So the what is really, what is the objectives? What are the problems you want to attack? What can you achieve at the end of the project? You develop a medical drug that kills and cures HIV? I don't think so. That scope is too big. But in a small project, you can develop and test in animal studies and prepare for human clinical trials later. So all the animal studies, safety studies, toxicity studies, and the manufacturing you can do in one project. That's not a problem. A clinical study with patients would be another project. So think carefully over the scope. What can you achieve with the money and the time available? And then how to implement your work plan. Step 1, step 2, step 3. And usually these are 1, 2, 3, as I say here. Many projects, not all, but many, they start with analyzing and mapping. What is the problem? What can we do? What are the details? And then develop a solution or a product or a service or new knowledge. And then you test and validate. And that's very important because many scientists forget that. So the testing and validating and developing is usually a cycle. You have 1 or 2 versions. Like you have software version alpha, then you have a beta testing, and then you have a prototype that is given out to customers. Same to products. You have product development in several cycles. And then you have the upscaling problem. You have one product, it works in one laboratory, but how do you make it work across many laboratories, or how do you transfer it to industry so they can make many copies? And then finally, don't forget the dissemination, exploitation, commercialization. You need to think about it. You don't necessarily have to do it yourself. Your industry partner may do it in the project or later, but you have to have a plan. And I will come back to that in the afternoon again. And the research management and administration is usually in a separate work package. So these 6 are the most common work packages inside a work plan. Well, then you can make a timing, because work package 1 is earlier than 3. You first need to develop before you validate. So your timing of the sequence of events, and again, that will come back in the afternoon.
Yeah, Frank,
yes.
I was going to ask, you said when you were showing us a template for the abstract, remember, I mean, you try to make the decision between a research proposal and maybe an academic paper. I mean, you have different audiences and different focus. I mean, that is fairly straightforward. But you know, at the end of the day, you are writing this proposal to look for euro or for dollars from some funding agencies. In the abstract, is it too much if you have a sentence? Just know a line to say that this project is going to cost 250,000 euros.
Oh, there's nothing against it.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you have a very good proposal, but the budget is too much for the funding agency, so they won't just look at it unless they have to, it's not possible for you to scale it down.
You're right. I was just about to say it depends on who you send the abstract to.
Okay.
If it's to the funding agency to see whether it's eligible, maybe you should indicate
Just one
the
line.
budget.
Yeah.
If you send it to partners, they may not be interested in the total budget, only what their slice would be. So it depends on how you use the abstract. If you want to publish it as a press release, you may want to impress people with the amount of money. Oh, look, this is a 16 million euro project. It's really important. Or if it's not important, you don't. It's up to you to decide whether that information is valuable. And the same applies to what you explained, for example, the names of the institutes and the partners. If they're like University of Utah, renowned institutes, it can be a bonus to mention. If you work together with IBM, it can be a bonus because that's a really important industry. Otherwise, if you have 27 partners, like in one of our projects, we are a partner in a consortium with 27 partners. You don't list 27 names in an abstract. Nobody cares. So it depends whether it adds value to mention a piece of information or not. And the final one is who. Who can use the results? For who are you developing this knowledge or products? And that is again important for the impact. Who's using your knowledge in the next step? Now, if you suggest people to follow this and start filling in, you will see the whole skeleton, the structure of a proposal or project appearing. And that gives a future partner a much better idea. In a picture like this, what is it really about? Are we going to develop a research policy document? Or are we going to change the research policy discussion platform in a country? Those are two very different things. And an evaluator can actually then already see, okay, this is a well-structured, good design, balanced proposal, or it's something that has big holes. We did this exercise in one of the workshops a while ago in Mexico. The first group that was working with this paper, they could fill in only 2 boxes. And then they started realizing, we really need a lot of work before we have the full skeleton, the full structure of the project. And then another shy girl came out and he said, well, I have an idea, may I? And she started writing, and then she had like 70–80% of the structure there. But she was too shy to tell. So you need to allow a little bit of time, get the first group going, and then wait for a second and third people to come up, because sometimes these are done, they see what the idea is and how the exercise should be done. And quite often I introduce the exercise before lunch, and then after lunch people have time. During lunch they can start thinking. And what I did in Mexico also is take pictures of the papers so that it's captured, or we took the papers with us afterwards and made summaries so that the ideas can be followed up after the workshop. This is a common thing. Workshops are fantastic. People are enthusiastic in the workshop, or they fall asleep, and then after the workshop, everybody spreads apart, there's no follow-up. And it's in the follow-up that you can convert ideas into actual proposals. And you can give assistance and follow-up coaching. So I find this exercise extremely useful. And again, this has nothing to do with European funding. This you can use for just about any proposal. Next one, please. These are more websites. Next. Even more websites. That's boring. And that's the checklist again. Again, you do not need a PhD for this. It's very common sense. However, it's important that you do follow this sequence, because many people start writing the proposal immediately without having thought about the idea. And then when you talk to partners, they have a different idea about the work plan. And then you have to merge two ideas, and you talk to a third partner, they still have a different. It's better to first start a common agreement on the idea, then a common agreement on the objectives, and only then start working on the work plan. And it's really a joint exercise between the partners. Otherwise, it's an idea of one person, and then the others. And I'll have a slide on that later. And don't forget to plan the closing, execution and closing of the project, because at the level of management, that is where most of the mistakes are made. And I will come back to that in the afternoon. Next one, please. I think we're almost there. Yeah, this is just an example of one project. I will skip this. Next. As I said, projects in Europe and many other funding agencies are not only judged on their scientific content, but also equally on their management and organization and budget. Is the budget well structured? Is it reasonable? Is the work plan well structured? There are no holes. Is it feasible or too ambitious? Do you have the right partners in the project to carry out, or is there any missing expertise? That is how the evaluator will read. They will look for the missing pieces. And then how do you create impact? And I will give examples of projects